What's up, Motocross Action? I'm Josh Mosiman, and welcome to This Week in MXA, episode number 4. Diving right into it, we've had a busy weekend. The MXA wrecking crew is all over the map. For me, I was up until 11 o'clock last night doing corrections on the magazine. That was not very fun, but it was no fault to anybody else except my own. Then this morning was up at 3:45 in the morning, carpooled with Jody to get to the office here in Valencia, California. Now, Daryl and Jody are working on production of the next issue in the magazine, while Trevor and I are here shooting this video, giving you guys the latest news and keeping you up to date with what MXA has been up to. Diving into the first major story, Justin Barcia and Ken Roczen's battle at the front of the 450 main event at the Houston Supercross. It was a head-to-head battle and I was super excited. I thought that Justin Barcia was going to get passed by Ken Roczen. Ken Roczen looked a little bit faster, and also when Justin Barcia was making a few mistakes, Ken Roczen was able to learn the things that Justin Barcia was doing better than him and also capitalize on the mistakes that Justin Barcia was making. He had two huge opportunities where it looked like he was going to make the pass, but like Ricky Carmichael said while commenting on TV, it looked like Ken Roczen didn't even want to pass him. He stayed in second, he looked happy to get second, and although I know that Ken Roczen wants to win, he wants to gain those points, he wants to have the glory of being on the top step of the podium, it seemed like he was happy with second place, especially starting off the new season. MXA's Brian Commerce was on hand on the scene at the Houston Supercross. He was able to get photos of Justin Barcia's air shock and also with the air shock on Marvin Musquin's KTM, as we learned that more KTM and Husqvarna riders were running the air shock at the Houston Supercross. Justin Barcia was also talking with Brian Commerce before the night show started, and Brian said, "Hey, what's up with the air shock? What did you think of it?" And Justin said that he feels like the air shock is actually more consistent, which is super surprising being that it's air pressure. Air pressure builds up with heat and that changes the feel of the shock. However, Justin did say that the air shock feels more consistent, and he also confirmed that statement with a quote that he said in the post-race press conference, again stating that it was consistent feeling. For me, being a younger guy, I thought air shocks were only limited to mountain biking, and they were really new in motocross with Ryan Dungey and Andrew Short using them back in 2013 and 2016. However, talking with Jody, I've learned that air shocks aren't new in motocross. They've been around for years. Kayaba had an air shock back in the day, and CZ Motorcycles produced a Falta replica bike, and it came stock from the OEM with air shocks on it, replicating one of their MXGP racers factory edition bikes. And now WP has their factory prototype running with a lot of their top riders in Supercross right now. Another note on Justin Barcia's win, we all know that he got the three-peat, winning 3 Monster Energy Supercross season openers, and most of us know that he tied Jeremy McGrath with three-peat of season opener wins. Something you might not think about is that he put Gas Gas on the top of the podium, the first time Gas Gas has ever been in a 450 Supercross main event, and they grabbed the win, so that's pretty cool to see too. Next, I want to talk on how stacked the 450 class is this year. We have 20 riders who are riding for either factory teams or on factory supported bikes, and only 2 privateers in the 450 main event. And that's not counting the top riders that weren't in the 450 main event this weekend. Justin Bogle crashed out, he wasn't in the main event. Shane McElrath is on the injured list with an AC separation in his shoulder, and Benny Bloss crashed out of the LCQ, he wasn't in the main event either. Further, to continue talking on how stacked the class is, Cooper Webb started the race in 14th, moved up to 10th place by lap 4 of the main event, and stayed there for the entire race until he passed Jason Anderson with 6 laps to go, and he ended up finishing 9th place. Eli Tomac started the race in 8th place and stayed there until he took Vince Friese and himself out on lap 4. Watching the incident on TV, it didn't look like Eli was going to take Vince out, but that he would have just made an aggressive pass and pulled out of there with both of them still on 2 wheels. However, at the exit of the corner, it looked like Eli Tomac pushed the front end, which caused him and Vince Friese to both go down. 3 laps later, when Eli Tomac was trying to pass Vince Friese for the second time, he pushed both himself and Vince off the track. Neither of them went down, but they lost more time to the leaders ahead of them. The last 3 champions in the 450 Supercross series were outside of the top 10 at round 1. Eli Tomac, Cooper Webb, and Jason Anderson all found themselves outside of the top 10, searching for points heading into round 2. Another interesting note, the riders inside of the top 10, we had 4 riders on Austrian brands with Gas Gas, Husqvarna, and KTM, and we had 3 riders on Yamaha YZ450Fs. Yes, the Star Racing Yamaha guys, Dylan Ferrandis, Malcolm Stewart, and Aaron Plessinger were inside the top 10, and this is a huge turnaround. These guys beat former champions in the 450 main event and improved vastly over how Yamaha was able to perform last year, so we're super excited to see how Yamaha continued to improve. Malcolm Stewart finished 5th place on Saturday, Dylan Ferrandis finished 7th place, and Aaron Plessinger finished 8th place, All great positions for these riders who are coming into Supercross, a little underrated on the bike that wasn't so popular coming into the new year. 2 more points from Houston. All reports are coming back positive for having fans inside of the stadium. Every rider was thankful to have the fans there, hearing the cheering as they rode across the track, and everyone was happy to be headed back towards a more normal direction for Supercross. Additionally, MXA's Brian Commerce had great things to say about the coronavirus testing that he had to go through. All the riders, team members, mechanics, photographers, they had to get a coronavirus test before entering the stadium, and it went by super smooth. Brian said that he got the test, sat in his car for 10 minutes while the test sat on his dash, then they came and grabbed the test, checked it, he was negative and good to go into the stadium. So super quick 10-minute process and made things a lot easier and safer for the guys going into Supercross. Chad Reed and James Stewart are 2 legends of the motocross industry. They've had a huge rivalry going on for years and they've never met up to talk about it or to squash any of the old beef. Now, the 2 riders, James and Chad, were seen playing golf together on Friday before the Houston Supercross, talking about all the other Januaries in the past years they spent battling against each other. Chad and James both talked also on the huge bomb that Eli Tomac and Roczen dropped on the industry when they posted a photo together flying in a private jet on the way to the Houston Supercross. We were all super surprised to see these 2 together. Both Ken had his baby son and Eli had his baby daughter. Flying together, it was a whole family affair headed to the race. Super surprising to see, and both Chad and James mentioned that they thought that it was pretty wild to see and something you would never see in their day either. For me, as a former AMA pro racer, I can respect these guys for putting aside their differences and starting a friendship away from the motocross track. It truly is a common bond that you can create with somebody when you grow up, battling hard against them, battling with everything you have to beat your competitor, and to look back on that career now, it's pretty cool to see. Diving into what the MXA Wrecking Crew has been up to, first we have a funny story that I want to share about my boss, managing editor of MXA, Daryl Ecklund. Daryl raced the 2007 Orlando Supercross, and that was actually the last time Supercross visited the city of Orlando in Florida. Now, in 2021, the Monster Energy Supercross season is heading back to Orlando, and they're actually doing a replica track of that same race that they had in 2007, where Daryl was there. And fun fact, that was actually the first time that Daryl qualified for a 250 main event at Supercross. He actually took out a rider in the last turn of the LCQ. He said he was tired of missing out on the main event and he was going to do whatever he took to get in there. He also beat Ryan Dungey, Ryan Sipes, and Brock Tickle in the main event. How did he do it? Well, he finished 17th place, so it sounds like those guys crashed out. Still, cool story. Daryl Ecklund was racing at the 2007 Supercross, and now the series is heading back to Orlando, and they'll have a replica track at the first round there to replicate what Ricky Carmichael was racing on back in the day in Orlando, and what my own boss and friend Daryl Ecklund raced back in 2007. Next up for the MXA Wrecking Crew, while the pros were in Texas, Jody and the guys were out at REM, race testing all the bikes. And we gotta tell you, race testing is completely different than riding and practicing on a bike during the week. MXA's Brian Medeiros went out there. He rode the Honda 2021 CRF 450 in the first moto, then rode the 2021 KX 450 in the second moto, doing a little back-to-back race testing. He is an MXA guy. He's been testing with us for years, and he knows how much race testing helps to figure out all the little quirks and details of the bikes. And even he was surprised with how much different the bikes handled under race conditions, under race pressure. So I also want to touch on MXA's first ride video on the 2021 Husqvarna FC350. Usually MXA films our first ride videos all in one day. We ride the bike, shoot the bike, and give our first impressions after day one, all at the same time before we leave the track. But for our FC350 video, we wanted to do something a little different, and we shot all the video, shot all the photos and all the close-ups of the bike while it was brand new and fresh. But we put months of testing on this bike, really figured out more about the WP air forks, and we've recorded the audio for the video a little bit later on. So in that video, I get to talk a little bit about the WP air forks and go into all kinds of details on how to set them up, what to do and what not to do. Next, the MXA Wrecking Crew wants to recognize a legend in motocross, Joelle Robert, who passed away at just 77 years old. Joelle was a 6-time 250 world champion from Belgium, earning his titles in the years of 1964 to 1972. Jody explained to me that he was one of the greatest racers of all time, a goofball of a guy. He was fun-loving and amazingly talented. He won his first world championship as a privateer CZ rider, and then he got CZ factory support from CZ Motorcycles after that, but finished runner-up in the second position for the next 3 years. Joelle Robert went on to win championships on CZ motorcycles and on Suzuki motorcycles, and he had the most world championships at 6 total until Stefan Everts came along. For reference, Roger DeCoster had 5 world championships. Joelle Robert, Thorsten Hallman, and Roger DeCoster had 15 world championships to their names, and modern day American motocross fans owe a debt of gratitude to these 3 riders for making American motocross what it is today. So that's all for this week in MXA episode number 4. Another one of the cool things about coming to the MXA offices is seeing what kind of new shipments we got. This week we got a fresh OGO gear bag. I'm excited to bring it out to Glen Helen for some test days with the MXA Wrecking Crew. Also, before you go, make sure to click subscribe on our YouTube channel to stay up to date with our latest videos, and check out motocrossactionmag.com for news, reviews, race results, bike tests, product tests, and more.